Hey, everybody, what's going on? It is Alex here, and I got a bit of an interesting one for you today. I recorded a Texas Chainsaw Massacre review. I actually recorded two back when the movie came out. I'm talking about 2022, the legacy sequel from last year. I recorded these videos about a day or two after the movie came out, and I wasn't confident in the product I created to the point where I didn't even finish the commentary either time. I got to about the same point both times, which has about 10 minutes left in the movie. And I wasn't proud of the product I created at the time, and that is why I cut off the videos. Now, I say this to tell you that these are not by any means bad reviews. These are actually great reviews by my own modern perspective, but I was aiming for perfection. And that was the enemy of making a great commentary on the film. So I also say this to say, and a lot of times we are our own worst enemies. I'm going to be uploading this product now and finishing it at the end today. I am going to choose one of two of these reviews, but either one is absolutely phenomenal, and I am very proud of them, and I hope that you enjoy it today as well. Thank you so much for watching, and always appreciate your talents. We are our own biggest critics, and we can be our own best friends. I love you guys. Be good to yourselves. Let's do it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Alex with TV Fortitude here, and today we're going to be talking about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that just came out on Netflix. Yeah, let's get into it. Alright, folks. So, this movie has the exact same name as the original and the remake, except for maybe a the. I think they might have taken the out of the title. Man, that is. We just keep doing this, don't we? It, does every series need three movies with the same name in it? Come on, come on. What are we doing? What are we doing? We got the original, the remake, and the requel. There we go. That's what we'll do. Wait, no. Texas Chainsaw 3D is a requel too. Oh my god. All right. We're in trouble here. All right, folks. But yeah, we're going to get right into this with spoilers. So if you don't want it spoiled, watch the movie firsthand. And I just want to say, I've seen a lot of controversy surrounding this movie. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. There's a lot of people in between. For me, I loved Halloween Kills, Scream 2022, and this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And a lot of people are finding a lot of controversy or issues with one or multiple of those movies. And honestly, for me, I think one of the main reasons why I've enjoyed them so much is because I've stayed away from trailers for all of them. So I went in completely blind, not having any idea what to expect. And that really helped my enjoyment factor. I feel like if I had seen the trailers, I would have had more expectations for the film, and I would have been a lot more likely to be disappointed. So I just want to say that first and foremost. I genuinely recommend that most of you, unless you're big on trailers, stay away from a lot of modern day trailers when you're eager to see the movie, because trailers nowadays give away too much, and it may affect the movie going experience. Okay, so in this movie we have four different social media influencers. It's not really shown very much that they're social media influencers, aside from like a couple comments in the beginning, and they play like a few seconds of a clip from the main dude Dante's YouTube channel, or maybe a Twitter video or something. But yeah, you have the main dude Dante, who seems like the main dude that got them together to want to go buy up this town and modernize it. You have his girlfriend, who honestly I did not notice her given a name throughout the whole movie. And then you have two sisters. The two sisters are your main characters, and I think they do a phenomenal job. A lot of people are saying because of the one character having been in a school shooting before, that was the movie's way of trying to be woke or say something. And I didn't really feel that at all. I just felt like that was way of shaping that character and their identity, and I thought they did a good job with that. It didn't feel forced, and only a couple of times we had flashbacks to that moment, and all of them lasted less than 10 seconds, if I remember. So it was really just kind of, it felt like the character was going through that and real. It didn't feel like something that was forced just for the sake of it. But yeah, their relationship was done very well. Onto Leatherface. Leatherface, I think, in this film is handled very well. Better than he's been handled in a very long time. Many people I've still seen say that this doesn't exactly line up with the Leatherface we get in the original. And I can see where they're coming from, but I'm not sure if we can really compare the two, you know? That was a young man who had grown up in that family that was like that way, so a lot of it was fresh identity. But this is 40, 50 years probably after he's killed anyone or been around stuff like that or been around people like that. So it was like deep in his psyche. It wasn't a surface level thing that was his complete ideology like it was in the original. It seemed like he really more or less grew into being a peaceful, kind old man by this point that really didn't want anything to do with anyone as he was in the original. So even though I can see where people are coming from with that, I don't think that I necessarily agree. I think that this is handled well enough as a sister type of Leatherface to the original. And when I say sister, I mean, you know, like adjacent. But this is also 50 years in the future, so it makes a lot of sense to me, the change in character. But yeah, so when they get to the town, they are investigating all the buildings, and they come across this one orphanage, and while they're in there, they find this old woman, and she's like, "What are you doing in my house?" And they're like, honestly kind of jerks about it. They're like, "Actually, we own this house. This is our house. I know for a fact we own this house." She's like, "Oh, you mean that mix up with the bank? Oh, I gotta clear it up. Don't worry, this is my house." And then still being jerks, like, "No, this is my house. Do we have to call the cops to get you taken out of here?" Right? And so they do. They end up calling the cops. And the cops come and they're talking to the lady, gonna take her out of there. Like, "Oh, Jenny, you're still here. I thought we'd been over this." And she's like, "No, no, no." And then she has a heart attack and she drops. And Leatherface at this point, you don't even know 100% it's Leatherface. I think a lot of people already assumed. But since the last movie, Leatherface 2017, was a whodunit, I thought they might leave a couple elements in there, if like throwing you off. But her son, her adopted son, it was an orphanage. So seemed like, I don't know if it was other people with maybe mental issues, because I know Leatherface was a grown man at that point, or just people that couldn't take care of themselves. But he was in this orphanage being taken care of by this woman. So when she collapses, he is clearly distraught and trying to help her. And so they end up putting her in the back of the cop vehicle, which doubles as an ambulance, and Leatherface is in the back with his mother and another cop. And then Dante's girlfriend decides to go along with them because she feels bad. And while they're driving into town, Leatherface's new adopted mom dies. She dies. So this is when it's revealed that it is Leatherface, and I think most people that enjoyed this movie, this was the moment when they knew they were in for a treat. Leatherface grabs the one cop's hand, snaps his wrist. There's 2 bones sticking out of his wrist, and he uses that to stab him in the neck. It is insanely brutal. And that cop pulls out his gun to shoot Leatherface, and I don't know what Leatherface done, but Leatherface kind of like, I don't know if he pushes away from him or the dude just accidentally shoots, but he shoots his partner who's driving the car, and so he drives off the road into this, I think, sunflower field or something, and then they smash into a tractor or like some piece of farm equipment. And Dante's girlfriend in the front seat is playing dead for a while, and you can see Leatherface dragging his mom out of the car, and then cuts his mom's face off, and he wears it. That's the face he's wearing for the rest of the movie. Excuse me. It is wild. I didn't even fully put that together at first until we saw her without her face later, and I was like, oh, that whole time I thought it was the cop, the cop in the back seat that he did that to, but nope. So Dante's girlfriend is playing dead for a while, but eventually Leatherface gets her. That's a pretty fun sequence. It seems like there might be more to it than there is at first because of her surviving for a long period of time, but she ends up getting got anyways. Back in the house, well, not back in the house, I don't know what I'm saying, back in the town, a whole bus of people that they're trying to sell these new properties to comes into town, and they're showing them around for a while until it starts pouring outside, and they get everybody back in the bus, and Dante is looking around the house, and Leatherface shows up again, and Leatherface slices him in the face. That's all you can tell at first, and Dante lands face down on the ground, so you can't see what happened to him, but he's laying in a pool of blood, and you think he's dead at first. But a little bit later, maybe 10 minutes later, we come back to him, and he's stumbling out of the front door, leaves the front door open, it's pouring outside, and he runs across the Texan guy. His name is Richter. Yeah, his name is Richter. And the lady who's driving the bus. And then it shows his face, and it's this gnarly slash across his face. It is phenomenal effects work. I was super impressed when I saw that. After the wrist thing, I knew that we were in for good effects work, but that was good stuff. And I see a lot of people complain about the CGI in this film. I'll get to the point where there's most of the CGI in this film, but honestly, the first time I watched it, I didn't notice any of the CGI. I didn't notice it at all. I'll probably notice it when I'm looking for it, but it didn't take me out of the movie at all. And that's normally my complaint about CGI. I don't mind CGI unless it's taking me out of the moment, So that's how I feel. But yeah, so Dante is revealed to have this huge gash, and the bus lady goes and gets everyone on the bus and makes sure to lock the door, trying to get no one to leave. The one sister is on the bus, the younger sister. And Richter goes back to the house at the orphanage. Oh, and I forgot to mention, one of our main girls, the older sister, is under the bed at this point. She had been hiding in the closet from Leatherface, and then she was hiding under the bed. She was in a lot of tense moments hiding from Leatherface in this movie and this particular part, and I thought they worked very well. But Richter comes in, and he knows something's up, but he doesn't know exactly what's going on because he obviously saw that he was messed up, but he didn't know what he was in for or what exactly he was looking for. And the girl under the bed sees that Leatherface is behind him, but notices that he doesn't see Leatherface, obviously because of no reaction. So she uses her foot from under the bed to adjust the mirror slightly so that he can see Leatherface behind him and get out of the way right when he comes for him. But Leatherface still, oh my gosh, absolutely brutal with this guy. He knocks his knee backwards with his hammer. Like the knee, his knee, it's going that way. My knee's going this way right now. He made his knee go that way. And this man, Richter, he is insanely awesome. Or I should say badass. He kept fighting Leatherface through that, was throwing him up against the wall, or I don't even know the word. Whatever. He pushed him up against the wall. And Leatherface smashes his head through a window, or maybe Leatherface got smashed in the window. Anyway, there's a smashed window. There's a little bit of glass sticking out. Leatherface shoves him into the thing of glass, cuts his neck, and he falls on the ground. It is brutal. It is brutal. And the way the kills are handled in this movie is extremely realistic. People do not die easy. Like Dante, for instance, he even though he collapsed and died not long after he stumbled out of the house and got halfway down the road, that's something that definitely happens. Like, I know I've heard multiple stories about people with severe wounds. Like that one guy whose wife shot him and he woke up and went about his morning before he collapsed. Like that stuff happens. And I love how realistically it was taken with these characters and the fact that they're not just gonna die in the easiest way, and I guess the approach of just sheer brutality that they brought to it was absolutely astounding. Um, but anyways, the one sister gets off the bus because she wants to know what's going on, and the other sister takes the opportunity to like be running from Leatherface. Oh yeah, she's like trying to sneak out of the house, and Leatherface, great jump scare, is at the top of the stairs and throws a hammer down at her as she turns to run, or maybe she hadn't turned yet. I'm just saying stuff. And it hits her in the gut. She falls straight through the floor. Now she's underneath the house. Leatherface comes down to the first floor with the chainsaw and is searching for her as she's crawling under the house. And he finds her a couple of times. He just starts chainsawing after her. And she's like trying to outcrawl the chainsaw. And as she gets to this like grate, it's like locked and she can't open it. It's locked on the outside. Or seems that way anyways. And Leatherface's chainsaw gets up near and it cuts like this pipe, septic pipe, and a whole bunch of poo, absolute shit, literal human feces is just dumped all over our main girl. And just as that happened, her sister shows up and lets her out. And then they're both running from Leatherface. And then the younger sister, at that point, that's when she really becomes a huge part of the story. She wasn't a huge part of the story, just like a bit of setup before them, but that's when she becomes a big part of the story. And then they run back onto the bus, and Leatherface shows up. The bus driver, well, Leatherface doesn't show up yet, but the bus driver tries to start the bus and it won't work. And he goes outside, and then you just see his head tossed into the stairs coming in. And then Leatherface shows up, comes inside, and both of the sisters go and they lock themselves in the bathroom. And people are just getting sawed like crazy. One of my honest, like, this is just a nitpicky complaint, but that bus scene was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The only thing that I was thinking is no one is doing anything to like really fight for their lives here. Like, most you saw people do was like pressing up against the window, or the one chick that tried to like half crawl out the window at the end. But nobody was like trying to push through Leatherface while he was chainsawing people. You know, just sheer fight or flight kicked in and they just tried to run out the door the only way that they saw. Or I don't know, normally buses have like an escape hatch at the back. I didn't see anybody going for that, but nonetheless, this scene was absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best gore that I've seen in a long time, handled very well. There was a dude who was sawed from here to here, and then he was like on the ground. You were just looking at him for a while. There was another dude who was sawed through the back. It came out his privates, and then it went into a chick. It was like I already said, the chick that was trying to go out the window, they got sawed in half. It was handled very well, and I think this is another one of those moments when the guy is like filming him and he's like, try anything, you're canceled, bro. I think it's another moment where people are trying to say this is a very woke movie, but that people are that way. People do say stuff like that, and that dude wasn't portrayed in a positive way. That was all he had, and then he got sawed up. And you saw his comments. It was hilarious. Like, hey, yo, this looks so fake. I thought that was so funny. But, yeah, Leatherface goes through everybody in there, and the two sisters are in the bathroom, and they're trying to go out like a glass window on top. I don't know exactly what to call it, but there's a way out at the top of the bathroom. So they're undoing that and trying to go out. The younger sister's out first, And Leatherface starts breaking into the bathroom with the chainsaw as the other sister's getting out. But I can't remember if it was now or maybe a bit later, but Sally she is informed about a guy wearing another guy's face. I'm trying to remember where she gets that info from. I watched this last night. I should have rewatched it before I did this. But yeah, so Sally finds out that another guy is wearing another guy's face, and she's like, okay, I think I know what that is. And honestly, I thought Sally was super underutilized. We don't get a great sense of what she's been doing. She's a park ranger for the past 40 years. She was like cutting up some meat when she got the call. I had a hard time really getting into the character because I didn't think that they brought a lot to her. You know, just that she was still traumatized 45 years later. That was like the main shtick of the character, which, I mean, I'm cool with that being a base part of the character, but I don't want that to be the character. I mean, that's just too much. And when Sally does come to town, she finds the two sisters, and she locks them up in the back of her car, and she's like, you're who we want, so you got to stay here. Like, in that moment, they had barely shown anything of Sally, and her first real moment in the movie, she was not a good person. Maybe that's part of the point, I don't know, but she goes after Leatherface, and she finds him, and she doesn't shoot him right away. She's like, wants a moment. She's like, do you remember me? Tell me you remember me. And he doesn't. But yeah, he doesn't remember her. So the two sisters end up getting out, and Sally shoots him when he's coming after them. I'm a little foggy on this part right here, but anyways, Sally is getting into a fight with Leatherface, and she shoots him a couple of times, shoots his chainsaw a couple of times, and then she gets shot up through the middle, almost in half, and then she gets tossed into some garbage. So quick. It's so quick. She just comes into the movie, comes into it, and then she's shot up and in some garbage. And like literally less than 10 minutes. It is wild. I love Sally. I think she is massively underused in this movie. The two sisters then take the cop car. I think Sally gave them the keys. Yeah, she gave them the keys. Pretty sure. But they take some car and they drive it at Leatherface. And this is actually a pretty cool moment. You know how most of the time they just crash the car seemingly for no reason? This was handled pretty well because Leatherface took a step back and he chucked his chainsaw at their car. It did not hit chainsaw end first. It hit the butt end first. But still, I can understand how you would have a reaction to maybe swerve when something's being thrown at your car, especially when it's obstructing your line of view. So anyways, they swerve and they end up crashing into this garage. And the one sister, the older sister, is stuck. She is stuck on something that's stabbed through her leg. And she tells her sister to go. The sister that had been in the school shooting, they like have something earlier where the sister's like, I always gotta take care of you, the older sister, like, because you can't take care of yourself or something like that. Well, something like that. But in this moment, she's like, you know, you never needed me. Just go. Leave me behind. And it's a really powerful moment, actually. And it's capped off by another really powerful moment where the older sister comes face to face with Leatherface. She's crying, and she apologizes to him for what they did to his mother. Oh, and I forgot to mention, that lady, Leatherface's mom, actually did still own the house. She owned the deed to the house. Or older girl ended up finding that. Yeah, it's why she went back in the house later, came face to face with Leatherface. Yep, yep. Full circle. Okay. But anyways, the one sister comes back with a gun and distracts Leatherface. And the sisters are in a situation where Leatherface is about to get both of them now. And Sally then shoots Leatherface again and allows them an opportunity to run. And she reloads the shotgun with a couple more shells, and she lays it on the ground, and she dies. Man.
And there's the point I cut it off at. I know I did that because I wasn't proud of the product I was creating. And here we are, modern day, a year and a half later, 17 and a half months later. I am here talking to you once again. This is, by the way, the basic one. This is after I had seen the movie, I believe, twice. Maybe once, I think twice. So, wasn't as intense of thought. Some of my other ones are more intense because I had argued with more people online and came with a more rounded perspective of why I love the movie so much. So anyways, we're going to keep going from right here. So Sally shoots Leatherface, saves Lila, then puts the gun on the ground. Leatherface runs away into the theater, and Sally tells Lila, "Don't run. If you run, he'll always haunt you." And so Lila takes that advice, takes the gun. The girl who was in the school shooting came around to being comfortable with guns, which was an interesting arc in and of itself. And she goes to face Leatherface in the theater. And then in this theater, you have a giant hole in the ground with a bunch of water and like dripping from the ceiling. I thought the production design on this film was really cool, and this was a great example of it. You can't see Leatherface in this area, but you see a chainsaw just revving on the ground behind like a sheet, and she goes and she reveals it, and then Leatherface comes out and tackles her into the water. This is a very interesting sequence. A lot of people say that Leatherface intentionally set a trap here, and it can be argued for sure that he did. I think that's probably the most logical argument, but like a lot of people say, that seems kind of out of character for Leatherface to me. So my headcanon is that he just left the chainsaw there and then went to do something. I don't know, maybe like patch up his wounds a little bit or do something. And it was just sitting there revving until it turned off. So that's my headcanon. But yeah, he comes and he tackles her into the pool, and they're both underwater for a bit. And then you see Lila pop out, and then she's like coming to the side, and Leatherface pops out too and attacks her. And yeah, so then Leatherface is standing over her. She's laying on the ground, and like all the sound kind of drowns out, and you then see and hear Melody on top of Leatherface attacking him, hitting him over. And that was a really cool sequence. I love that the sisterly bond comes around back at the end. I can't remember exactly how this sequence plays out off the top of my head, but they're going back and forth fighting with Leatherface a bit until he's standing there with like this crazy creepy look. I'm telling you, the cinematography is great in this movie. And Melody comes, the older sister, and uppercuts Leatherface with the chainsaw, and he falls back into the water, and then he just slowly sinks into the water. And then they're going outside, taking the Tesla, I think, out of there. Whatever, it's a self-driving car. And they're like talking all positive. And little sister's like, "You know what? I think I will move here with you." And then the older sister's like, "Shut up." And then Leatherface breaks through the window, pulls out the older sister, cuts her head off. The other girl, the younger sister, is going away like through the roof of the car, the sunroof. And she's like, "No, Melody, no." And then the car is still driving her away, just ironically. Then cuts, movie's over. Then you have one of the best end credit sequences of all time. Music is high key amazing. And so a lot of people Leatherface came back after he sunk in the water and was under there for a minute or two. A lot of people say that means he's supernatural, which I gotta admit, it's kind of weird. He was under that water for a little long, even in what we saw, and they hadn't left the room when we got away. But for me, my headcanon is that he was underwater and he had a moment of, I ain't gonna die. Nah, I lived this long. My family went through all this. I went through all this for what? To let these two punks take me out? And then he swam back with his little effort left, came up for air, and then he went outside looking for him, grabbed her, cut her head off. And we have another little Leatherface dance at the end. It's a short, quick one. It's great. And then after the credits end, we have an end credit sequence, and it's Leatherface walking back to the house from the original, and you just see the sun in the background. It's really cool, and you got great sounds in the background. Again, man, the soundtrack to this movie is crazy good. The cinematography is incredible. The subtle plot that has a lot going on under the surface, but is very able for anybody to swallow, is great. That's great to me. It's a lot like the original. I love that this movie is a mirror image of the original in a lot of ways. I kind of view them as like a yin-yang. And again, I love the original. The original is amazing. Because a lot of this movie takes place at night. You have Leatherface after he was raised by good people and not just his evil family from the original. It's a very interesting setup that I like that they went with this. Yes, a lot of the things I mentioned earlier that I have problems with, that a lot of people have problems with, like the Sally arc and a couple other things, the people on the bus, yeah, they're not great, but there's other stuff that I'm a big fan of, like having unlikable main characters, the arc of Melody, the arc of Lila, Richter as a character. I don't think the film's making fun of, but I think he's a great character. But a lot of these things that upset me, I came up with ways that it works. Like for Sally, I view her character as a statement on when trauma defines you, you're always going to be unhappy. And I think that's part of what her message was to Lila. Like, you have to face what you're running from or you're always going to be running. Which was very poetic. And I always wanted Sally to have a great life, too, after I saw Texas Chainsaw, the original. But in all reality, it's very unlikely. I mean, she was a regular girl that went through that. That would traumatize me for life. So it only kind of makes sense that the same thing would happen to her. So her arc I can justify, even though it's a bit upsetting, especially upon first few viewings. But I love a lot of things about this movie. The makeup effects are cool. The sound design, the cinematography, the production design, the look of Leatherface, the acting. I like the setting a lot. A lot of people don't like the setting. I think it works quite well. I like the writing. Man, there are so many cool scenes in this movie too. Like Leatherface's head coming out of the sunflowers. The scene in the ambulance. Man, the practical effects in this movie are so good. And I love that this movie's short. It gets straight to the point, like the original. So, yeah, I highly recommend this movie. Thank you guys so much for sitting with me and going from this bit of me from the days after this movie originally came out to now, a year and a half later. I still love this movie. I love it now, likely more than ever. I was crazy hyped on it for like the first few days after it came out, but now I still love it more than ever. I think it's absolutely amazing, and this is a hard movie to rate for me. As far as it goes, I don't think I can give it anything lower than a 9.7. I don't think I can give it anything lower than a 9.7. And that's for me. That's what I want out of a slasher. That's what I wanted out of this movie. And there's so many things I like about it. The small things that I don't, I'm able to kind of let go of and not latch on to as being as big of problems. But I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on this movie. And I love you guys. I really appreciate you all being here. If you've sat with me throughout all of this, or even if you just skip to the end, it is awesome to have had you hear it all. And I hope to be seeing you back again soon. Until next time, this is Alex signing off.
I just checked. Not only did I review this movie twice, I watched it all the way through and did commentaries on it twice. And I did it halfway one time. So, this is clearly a movie that meant a lot to me, but I wasn't proud of my work and my opinion on it. So, I really appreciate you guys, if you've made it this far, for checking it out and bearing with me and, coming along with me on this journey through my mind on this movie. It is a movie that means a lot to me, and I highly value it. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite horror movie of all time. I have seen it more times than I've seen any movie ever. And yeah, all I really have to say is thank you so much, guys. This is very important to me to finally get my thoughts out there. And I have many more thoughts. Maybe I'll speak more about it later, but for now, here you go. Here you were. Love you guys. And I will be back again soon. I've said that 1,000 times. I filmed 1,000 videos. But it's really important to me to now be talking with you guys and have these conversations, because horror movies are very important to me and I believe to humans as a whole. So why not talk about it with my fellow horror nerds? Love you guys. See you soon.
Oh, and by the way, I said I filmed 2 reviews, 2 commentaries, another half commentary. That is only in like the 2 days after the movie came out. Since then, I've probably filmed about 5 reviews, at least. So probably like 7 total. So I'm going with the first review I filmed right now. But man, I've been wanting to get my thoughts out on this movie forever. So maybe I'll talk about it again in the future. But for now, this is what we got. And frankly, I think it's beautiful. If I go through probably all my reviews, I'll probably think very highly of them now. But I didn't at the time I recorded them. Man, I'm saying, own worst enemies or own best friends. Peace out, man.